After a stormy event, the Harmon family's press conference ended successfully. On the other hand, the influential Hummer family's press conference ended in dismal failure. The emergence of Immortanol dealt a huge blow to the sales of Eternamax. Compared to another medicine with better efficacy and a cheaper price, Eternamax was regarded as garbage. The Hummer family's Eternamax couldn't be sold at all. In the end, they were stuck with piles of rotting inventory. The meticulous game planned by Edwin was a complete failure. Although this disaster was unable to weaken the Hummer family's foundation, it still caused them heavy losses. After the press conference, Dustin was about to say goodbye when he was stopped by Ruth at the door. "Dustin, I need a favor from you." "What is it?" Dustin asked suspiciously. "I'm going to a reunion with some of my classmates later. Can you come with me and be my bodyguard?" Ruth was very straightforward. "The Harmon family has so many bodyguards, why do you need me?" "I'm not interested," Dustin refused. "How can those men compare to you?" "Well, to be honest with you, really annoying guy among there's a classmates who's been pursuing me. I told him I have a boyfriend, but he doesn't believe me. That's why I need you to come along." Ruth pouted. "In conclusion, you're just using me as an excuse." "That makes me even less interested." Dustin shrugged. "Hey, I consider you a friend, and you won't even help me with this small matter? Where's your loyalty?" Ruth had a displeased expression on her face. "What do you mean? Don't talk nonsense." Dustin's expression changed as he looked around nervously. "Don't pretend you didn't hear me." Ruth crossed her arms smugly. Dustin opened his mouth to explain, but Ruth interrupted him. "I don't care. If you don't help me out, I'll tell my mom." "What?" Dustin nodded in alarm. All right. I'll just keep you company. Are you happy now?" He didn't expect this little girl to resort to such a move. He really had to admire her persistence. "That's more like it." Ruth smirked and pulled Dustin out the door. It was the evening at the Phoenix Karaoke, in a private room. Sheila sat on the sofa listlessly, propping her chin on her hands. Before her, a group of young men and women were singing and rapping, having a great time. "Sheila, you said you were bored out of your mind in the villa. I took a huge risk to bring you out, but why are you still being mopey?" Claudia, who was sitting next to her, couldn't help feeling puzzled. Ever since her illness was cured, Sheila, who was usually lively and cheerful, seemed to be acting weird. These past 2 days, she had no appetite and seemed to wander around mindlessly. "Maybe my body hasn't fully recovered yet," Sheila lazily replied. "Is that so?" Claudia looked skeptical. "Sheila, can I ask you something?" At that moment, a young man suddenly cut in with a bright smile. "Did you inform Ruth about this gathering?" "I haven't been able to contact her lately." "Of course I did. We're all good friends, how could I leave her out?" Sheila nodded. "That's great. It's been a while since I've last seen Ruth. I wonder how she is doing?" The young man smiled in relief. "Nigel, I advise you to give up on Ruth. She's not interested in you." Sheila was very straightforward. "Where there's a will, there's a way. Maybe one day, Ruth will be moved by my true feelings." Nigel wasn't perturbed at all. "True feelings? Nigel, you seem to have a new girlfriend every month. It's possible that you change girlfriends as frequently as someone changes clothes." Claudia sneered. "Claudia, don't talk nonsense, I'm a loyal person." Nigel looked embarrassed. Okay. You're loyal, you're not a playboy. Claudia didn't bother to argue. Her duty was to protect Sheila. She had no interest in the love affairs of these young men and women. Just as they were talking, the door to the private room suddenly opened. Ruth, who was dressed luxuriously, entered the room, followed closely by Dustin. "Ruth, you're finally here. Please, have a seat." Nigel was overjoyed when he saw Ruth arrive. He quickly poured Ruth a glass of juice, fawning over her. "Dustin?" Sheila exclaimed and stood up suddenly. Her overreaction took Claudia by surprise. Why was she so energetic all of a sudden? Following her gaze, Claudia noticed Dustin standing there. She couldn't help furrowing her brows. Could it be that Sheila liked him? "Dustin, why are you here?" Sheila greeted him with joy, to the point of ignoring Ruth's presence. "Ms. Murray?" Dustin was slightly surprised. What a coincidence. He didn't expect to meet her here. "Sheila, do you two know each other?" Ruth stared at the both of them in astonishment. "I had fallen ill 2 days ago. It was Dustin who saved me." Sheila smiled sweetly. "Is that so? As fate would have it, both of you have met again." Ruth had a meaningful smile on her face as well. "Yes, it must be destiny." Sheila nodded energetically. She completely forgot about being bored. "Ruth, who is this guy? I haven't seen him around before." Nigel narrowed his eyes and stared at Dustin with an unfriendly expression. Two beautiful women were both fussing around Dustin and being so affectionate with him. This made Nigel green with envy. "Oh, I forgot to introduce him. This is my boyfriend, Dustin." Ruth raised her chin proudly. "Boyfriend?" Upon hearing this, Nigel's face darkened. As for Sheila, the happiness she had shown earlier was instantly replaced by disappointment and sadness. Who knew that Dustin had already been taken by her good friend?